There is something beneath love that most people never reach. Not because they don't want to, not because they aren't capable, but because they were never shown that the love they've experienced, the love they've given, the love they've received, the love they've been waiting for, is the surface layer of something with infinite depth beneath it. What you've called love your entire life is real. It's not wrong. But it is the outermost layer, and beneath it, there are layers that most human beings live and die without ever touching. Today, that changes. What I'm about to show you has been hidden in plain sight in the architecture of every relationship you've ever had. It's been encoded in the physics of connection itself. Ancient wisdom traditions mapped it thousands of years before modern science found the instruments to confirm it. And once you see it, once you actually see the layer beneath what you've been calling love, you will never be able to unsee it. You will never be able to settle for the surface again. This is not a video about how to find love. This is not a video about how to attract a partner or fix a relationship or heal a wound from the past. Those are surface conversations, and there's nothing wrong with them. But we don't stop at the surface here. This is a video about what love actually is beneath the story you were told about it, beneath the conditioning, beneath the chemical explanation, beneath the romantic narrative that culture handed you before you were old enough to question it. Because here is what most people don't know. The love you've been experiencing, the love that has moved you, broken you, completed you, destroyed you, that love has a layer beneath it. And that layer has a layer beneath it. And at the very bottom of all those layers, there is something that the mystics called by 100 different names, and that quantum physicists are only now beginning to find language for. Something that was always there. Something that was always you. You've always sensed there was more beneath the surface. You were right. So before someone loves you in a way you've never felt, before you open yourself to a depth of connection that most people don't know exists, before you step into the version of love that is waiting for you beneath every version you've already known, you need to see what's underneath. You need to understand the layers. Because if you don't, you will receive the deepest love that has ever come to you, and you will reduce it to the surface. You will interpret it through the old map, and you will miss it entirely. That is what this transmission is for. Let's begin at the surface. Let's start with what you think you know. You know what love feels like. You've felt it, maybe many times, maybe right now. The warmth in your chest when someone's name appears on your phone. The way a room changes when a certain person walks into it. The ache of missing someone so specific that no other presence can fill the exact shape of their absence. You know these feelings. They are real. They are undeniable. And you've been told, in various ways, by various sources, your culture, your family, your biology textbooks, your romantic comedies, that these feelings are love, and that is the surface. Because here is what's beneath it, those feelings, the warmth, the ache, the aliveness. They are not love itself. They are the fingerprints of something deeper pressing through into your sensory experience. They are what love feels like from the outside of love. They are what happens at the surface when something deeper is moving beneath it. Most people spend their entire lives responding to the fingerprints without ever asking what made them. Think about this. You've probably had the experience of loving someone and not feeling the warmth. Loving someone through grief, through anger, through the cold silence after a fight. The warmth wasn't there, but something was. Something that held even when the feeling didn't. What was that? If love is the feeling, what was the thing that stayed when the feeling left? That's the first layer beneath the surface, and most people have brushed against it without knowing what they were touching. The surface version of love, the one culture handed you, is a transaction. Not in a cynical way, in a structural way. You feel something toward someone. They feel something toward you. Those feelings create behaviors. The behaviors create a relationship. The relationship creates a structure. And inside that structure, you call what's happening love. But here is what that model conceals. It puts love outside you. It makes love something that happens between two people, rather than something that exists in and as the fabric of connection itself. It makes love conditional on the presence of another person. It makes love something you can lose when they leave. And it makes you, the one doing the loving, a participant in love rather than a source of it. Peel back that understanding and look at what's underneath. What if love is not a feeling that happens between two people? What if love is a state of being that two people temporarily access together, and then mistake for something they created between them? What if the love you felt in your greatest love story wasn't generated by the relationship, but was the pre-existing field that the relationship opened you into? That's a different map entirely. Different. And once you hold that map, everything you've experienced changes meaning. If this transmission is already reaching a layer in you that you didn't expect, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Every exploration here goes beneath the previous one, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Let's go deeper. Beneath the emotional experience of love, beneath the warmth and the ache and the aliveness, there is a neurological and biochemical architecture that science has spent decades mapping. And this is where the mainstream explanation usually stops. Because science found the chemicals, named them, measured them, and declared the mystery solved. Oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, vasopressin, the bonding hormones, the reward chemicals, the neurological signatures of attachment and attraction and connection. Science looked at what was happening in the brain of a person in love and said, there it is. That's what love is. A cocktail of chemicals, a neurological event, a biological drive toward reproduction and pair bonding, dressed up in poetry and longing. And that explanation is accurate. As far as it goes, the chemicals are real, the neurological signatures are measurable. The biological architecture of love is exactly what the researchers say it is. But here is the layer beneath that explanation that the mainstream account misses entirely. The chemicals are not the cause of love. They are the translation of love into the body's language. This is not a small distinction. This is everything. When you feel love, when oxytocin floods your system and dopamine lights up your reward centers, and your heart rate changes in the presence of someone specific, what you are experiencing is your body translating something into its own chemical vocabulary. The chemicals are the body's way of saying, something is happening here that I need to respond to. Something is real here. Something is significant here. But the question that the chemical explanation never asks is, what is the something? What is the thing that the chemistry is translating? What is upstream of the neurological event? That question takes you beneath the biochemistry, and what you find there is where this gets extraordinary. Now let's go deeper still, because this is where the veil lifts. Quantum mechanics, actual physics, not metaphor, has discovered something beneath the surface of matter that should have changed everything about how humanity understands reality. It changed physics. It changed our understanding of the structure of the universe. But somehow, it didn't fully penetrate the way most people understand love and connection. Because most people stopped at the surface explanation of what quantum mechanics found. Here is what it found. At the quantum level, beneath the molecular level, beneath the atomic level, beneath the subatomic level, matter does not behave the way it appears to at the surface. At the surface, objects are separate. You are here. Another person is there. There is space between you. There is a boundary where you end and they begin. This is so obvious, so self-evident, that it barely seems worth stating. But beneath that surface, at the level where quantum mechanics operates, separation is not the fundamental reality. It is a feature of the scale at which we observe. Quantum entanglement is the phenomenon that most directly speaks to this. When two particles interact, when they share a quantum state, they become entangled. And once entangled, what happens to one particle instantaneously affects the other particle, regardless of the distance between them. Not with a signal that travels through space. Not with a delay, instantaneously. As if the space between them is not a real barrier, as if, at the level beneath the surface, they are not actually separate. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. He resisted it. He found it philosophically intolerable, because it implied that the separateness we observe at the surface is not the deepest truth about reality. And he was right that it was intolerable, if you were committed to the surface being the whole story. But the physics is unambiguous. Entanglement is real. Non-locality is real. The separateness you observe at the surface of reality is a feature of the scale and the frequency from which you're observing, not a fundamental fact about what exists beneath. Now bring this into the territory of love and connection. What if the experience of deep love, the kind that makes the space between two people feel like it's dissolving, the kind that makes you feel someone's emotion before they express it, the kind that makes you reach for your phone the moment the other person was thinking of you? What if that experience is not a metaphor for connection, but an actual perception of what exists beneath the surface of apparent separation? What if love, at its deepest layer, is the direct perception of non-separation? What if the feeling of profound love is what it feels like, from inside a human nervous system, to briefly touch the quantum truth that you and this other being are not as separate as the surface appears to suggest? That is not belief. That is what quantum mechanics found beneath the surface of matter. And it should have changed everything. The surface tells you one thing. The depth tells you something completely different. The surface says two separate beings are experiencing feelings for each other. The depth says two expressions of the same underlying field are temporarily perceiving their non-separation. And here is why this matters for the love that is coming toward you. The love that you haven't felt yet. The love that is waiting on the other side of this understanding. If you enter love carrying only the surface map, the map that says love is a feeling between two separate people, then you will interpret every experience of deep love through that map. When you feel the dissolution of the boundary between yourself and another person, you will call it losing yourself. When you feel their emotion as your own, you will call it enmeshment. When you sense them across distance, you will call it obsession. You will pathologize the very experiences that are pointing you toward the deeper layer, because you don't have a map that includes what's beneath the surface. But now you're getting that map. I want to pause here and ask you something. Has there been a moment in your life, a moment inside a relationship, or a moment completely alone, when you suddenly saw through a layer of love you had accepted as the whole thing? When something you had been calling love revealed itself as the surface of something much deeper? Drop it in the comments. What was the layer beneath the love you thought you knew? Because the recognition you bring to this conversation becomes part of the field that everyone here descends into. Let's go deeper. Because beneath the quantum mechanics, there is something even older. The ancient wisdom traditions, every one of them, across every culture, across every century, were mapping this hidden layer long before physics existed to confirm it. They didn't have particle accelerators, they didn't have the mathematics of quantum field theory, but they had something else. They had direct perception of the layers beneath the surface. They had practices that stripped away the surface and allowed them to see, to actually see, what was underneath. And what they found, in the language of their time, was the same thing quantum mechanics is finding in the language of ours. The Hindu tradition called it Brahman, the undifferentiated ground of being from which all individual forms arise. The Tao Te Ching described the Tao as the source beneath all things, the undivided reality that precedes and underlies every apparent separation. The Sufi mystics wrote about fana, the dissolution of the separate self into the divine unity, the experience of the boundary between self and other becoming transparent. The Buddhist concept of Indra's net describes reality as an infinite web of jewels, each one reflecting all the others, each one inseparable from the whole. The Kabbalistic tradition speaks of Ein Sof, the infinite, the without end, the ground of being that precedes and underlies all created separation. Different maps, different languages, different cultural containers, the same hidden layer, And here is what every one of these traditions said about love. Not the feeling of love, the reality of love. They said that what humans experience as love is the momentary perception of the truth that was always there beneath the surface. That love is not something two people generate between them. Love is the ground state of reality, the nature of the field itself. And what we call falling in love is the temporary thinning of the veil between our surface experience and that ground state. The mystics didn't say love is something you find. They said love is what you are when the surface falls away. This is not poetry, or rather, it is poetry in the way that all precise descriptions of things that exceed ordinary language become poetry. But the thing being described is as real as the quantum field, as real as the entanglement between particles, as real as the non-separation that exists beneath the apparent boundaries of matter. The veil between you and this deeper reality is not a barrier, it is a membrane. And love, real love, the kind you haven't fully felt yet, is one of the most powerful forces that dissolves that membrane. But here is what the ancient traditions also said. And this is the layer that most modern conversations about love never reach. They said that the love you experience with another person is a doorway, not a destination, a doorway. The love between two beings, however profound, however real, is pointing towards something beneath itself. And if you mistake the doorway for the destination, if you stop at the love between you and another person and never go through the doorway it's opening, you will have touched something real but missed what it was showing you. The deepest love between two people is a transmission. It is the universe using the love between two specific beings to show both of them the layer of reality that exists beneath all apparent separation, to show them what they are beneath the surface of individual identity. This is why the greatest love stories have always felt like they were about more than two people, because they are. They are about the dissolution of the illusion of separation itself. They are about the membrane becoming transparent. They are about two beings briefly touching the ground state of reality and calling it love. What we've uncovered in this descent, from the surface, feeling down through the biochemistry, through the quantum field, into the ancient cartography of non-separation, is only the beginning of the excavation. If this convergence of physics and wisdom is resonating at a layer beneath your ordinary thinking, I mapped the complete descent in Beneath the Veil, a quantum map of reality's hidden layers, all 5 layers from the consensus surface down to the original frequency, with practices at every depth designed to make the hidden territory permanently visible. You'll find it in the description below. Now let's go to the parable. Because sometimes the hidden layer is most visible in a story. There was a woman named Sarah who had loved many times. She was not inexperienced, she was not naive. She had loved with everything she had given herself to love completely, had built her life around love, had organized her understanding of herself around who she was in relation to the people she loved. She was, by any measure, someone who knew love. But there was something she had noticed, quietly, over the years. A pattern she couldn't name. Every love she had experienced, no matter how profound, no matter how real, had eventually revealed a ceiling, a place where the depth stopped, where she would reach for something more and find that there was no more to reach for. Not because the love was insufficient, not because the person was wrong, but because something in the architecture of how she understood love had a ceiling built into it, and she didn't know where the ceiling came from or how to remove it. She met a man named Elias in the way that significant meetings always happen, at the intersection of ordinary circumstance and something that feels like it was arranged by a force you can't name. They were in a city neither of them called home, at an event neither of them had planned to attend, standing near the same window that looked out over a river that caught the last light of afternoon in a way that made the surface of the water look like it was made of something other than water. They talked. And then they talked more. And what Sarah noticed in the days that followed was that something in her usual map of love wasn't working. She kept reaching for the familiar landmarks, the feeling, the chemistry, the warmth, and finding them, yes. But beneath them, something else was happening that she didn't have language for. When she was with Elias, she felt seen. Not in the way that phrase usually means, not the comfortable recognition of being understood by someone who shares your perspective. She felt seen in a way that was almost uncomfortable, as if something that usually remained beneath the surface of her was being perceived directly. As if the layer she usually kept covered, not out of deception but simply because no one had ever looked beneath the surface layer, was visible to him, and more than visible, familiar to him, as if he had always known it was there. She found this terrifying. She found this extraordinary. She found herself, for the first time in her life, uncertain whether she was experiencing love or something that was using love as its surface form. One evening she told him this. She said, "I don't know what this is. I know what love feels like. I've felt it. This feels like love on the surface, but beneath the surface, something is happening that I don't have a word for." And Elias was quiet for a long time. And then he said something that Sarah would carry for the rest of her life. He said, "I think you've been stopping at the surface of love your whole life, not because you weren't capable of going deeper, but because you needed someone to go there with you. And I think that's what's happening now. I think we're both going somewhere beneath the surface of love, and neither of us has a map for where we're going." She said, "That should be frightening." He said, "It is, and it's the least frightened I've ever felt." What Sarah and Elias were discovering, what they were fumbling toward without language for it, was the layer beneath love. The layer where love is not something happening between two separate people, but something that two people are temporarily dissolving into together. The layer where the boundary between self and other becomes permeable. Where what you feel is not just your feeling, but the field's feeling moving through you. Where love is not a transaction between two beings, but a shared perception of the non-separation that was always true beneath the surface. They didn't have a map, but they had something better. They had the willingness to keep going deeper, to not stop at the surface, to refuse the ceiling. And that willingness, that refusal to stop at the surface of love, is what you're building right now, in this moment, as you receive this transmission. Because here is the bridge from the parable to you. You have loved. You have felt love. You have given love and received love and been shaped by love in ways that are written into the architecture of who you are. And somewhere in that history of love, you have also felt the ceiling, the place where the depth stopped, the place where you reached for more and found that the map you were using didn't go any further. That ceiling was not the limit of love. It was the limit of the map you were using to navigate love. And now you are getting a new map, one that goes beneath the ceiling, one that shows you the layers that were always there, waiting for your awareness to be ready to perceive them. Before we go to the next layer, I want to offer you a practice, not a technique, not a method, a shift in perception that will begin to make the layer beneath love visible to you in your actual life. The next time you feel love, any love for any being in any form, I want you to do something unusual. Instead of moving toward the feeling, I want you to move beneath it. Feel the love. Let it be real. And then ask quietly from beneath the feeling, what is this a surface expression of? What is this love pointing toward that is deeper than itself? You don't need to answer the question. The question itself is the practice. Because the moment you ask what is beneath the surface of this love, you shift from being a passenger in the feeling to being a perceiver of the field. You shift from experiencing love as something happening to you to experiencing love as something you are temporarily aligned with. And that shift, that tiny, radical shift in perception, is the beginning of seeing the layer beneath the surface. Try it now if you like. Think of someone you love. Feel the love. Let it be as real as it is. And then, gently ask, what is this love a surface expression of? What is beneath this? Notice what happens in your body when you ask that. Notice where the question lands. Notice if something shifts. That shift is the membrane becoming thinner. That is the veil beginning to lift. Now let's go to the next layer, because there is something hidden in plain sight in the way you have been receiving love. And this is the layer that most people never reach, because it requires looking at something uncomfortable. The love you've received in your life has been filtered. Not filtered by the people who loved you, they gave what they had, but filtered by you. Filtered by the part of you that decided, very early, what love was allowed to look like. What love was allowed to feel like. How much love was allowed to come in before it became threatening. Before it required something of you that you weren't ready to give. This is not a flaw. This is not a wound to be healed, in the conventional sense. This is the surface structure of self-protection, doing exactly what it was built to do. You learned, through experience, that love has costs. That love requires vulnerability. That vulnerability creates exposure. That exposure creates the possibility of loss. And loss, the loss of love, is one of the most destabilizing experiences a human being can have. So the self-protection system built a filter, a membrane between you and the full depth of love that was available to you. A layer that allowed some love in, but stopped the deeper layers from reaching you. Not because you chose this consciously, but because the system decided, without asking you, that partial love was safer than full love. And here is the hidden layer beneath that. The filter doesn't just stop love from coming in, it stops you from going out. It stops you from descending into the full depth of love you're capable of feeling. It keeps you at the surface, not just of others' love for you, but of your own love for others. Because the same membrane that protects you from being fully reached also prevents you from fully reaching. This is the hidden architecture of why love has had a ceiling. Not because love has a ceiling, but because you built one. And the ceiling is made of the same material as every other layer of self-protection. The belief, held beneath conscious awareness, that the deeper layers are not safe. Peel back that understanding and look at what's underneath. What is not safe about the deeper layers of love? What is the specific threat that the filter is protecting you from? Here is what you find when you go all the way down to the bottom of that question. The deepest layers of love require the dissolution of the boundary between self and other. And the self-protection system interprets that dissolution as annihilation, as loss of self, as the end of the separate identity that the system has spent years constructing and maintaining. The system is not wrong that something is lost in the deepest layers of love. Something is lost. The illusion of complete separateness is lost. The fiction that you are entirely self-contained, self-sufficient, unaffected at the core by the existence of others. That fiction becomes impossible to maintain in the deepest layers of love. But here is what the self-protection system doesn't know. What is lost in the deepest layers of love is not you. It is the surface version of you, the defended version, the version that was constructed to navigate a world that felt threatening. What is lost is the outermost layer, and what remains, what is revealed when that layer falls away, is something more real, more alive, more you than the defended surface ever was. The mystics called this the death of the ego. The quantum physicists call it the collapse of the separate observer. The therapists call it earned, secure attachment. The poets call it surrender. But they are all pointing at the same layer. The layer beneath the defended self. The layer where love is not threatening because you are not separate enough from love to be threatened by it. You are no longer just receiving love. You are beginning to see what love is made of. And I want to ask you something here, at this layer. Has there been a truth about love that was hidden in plain sight in your own life? Something you always sensed beneath the surface but couldn't name until you were ready to see it? A pattern in how you received love or how you held it at a distance that suddenly became visible? Leave it in the comments. What you name here doesn't just clarify something for you. It makes that layer visible for someone else who is standing right where you were standing before you could see it. Let's go deeper still. There is a layer beneath the self-protection structure that is even more fundamental. And this is the layer that almost no one reaches in conversations about love, because it requires asking a question that most people find destabilizing. The question is this: what do you believe you are? Not what do you believe about yourself, your qualities, your history, your capacities, but what do you believe you fundamentally are? What is the nature of the thing that is reading these words, having these experiences, loving and being loved? Most people, if they examine this honestly, hold a belief they've never consciously chosen. The belief that they are a bounded individual, a self-contained entity, a separate something that exists inside a body, inside a life, inside a story that began at birth and will end at death. A thing that is fundamentally alone in the universe, reaching out to other separate things through the bridge of relationship. This belief is so foundational, so deeply embedded in the structure of ordinary consciousness, that it doesn't feel like a belief. It feels like a fact. It feels like the floor of experience, the thing beneath which there is nothing. But here is what's beneath it. This belief, the belief in the bounded, separate, self-contained individual self, is itself a layer, a very convincing layer, a layer that is reinforced by every sensory experience you have, by the apparent solidity of your body, by the apparent boundary of your skin, by the apparent separateness of your thoughts from the thoughts of others. It is the most convincing layer in the whole stack, and it is not the deepest one. Beneath the belief in the separate self, there is something that the belief was built to conceal, not through conspiracy, not through deception, but through the simple fact that the surface layer, once established, becomes the default frequency of perception, and from the surface you can't see beneath it. You have to go beneath it to see what's there. What is there? What every wisdom tradition that has ever sent anyone deep enough has found is this: the separate self is a pattern within a field, like a wave is a pattern within the ocean. The wave is real. It has a shape, a height, a direction, a force. You can study it, measure it, name it. But the wave is not separate from the ocean. The wave is the ocean doing something. The wave is the ocean expressing itself in a particular form at a particular time and place. You are the wave. And love, the deepest love, is the moment when two waves simultaneously perceive that they are the same ocean. This is not metaphor, or rather, it is metaphor that is pointing at something literal. The quantum field that underlies all matter, the field that quantum mechanics has been mapping for a century, is not a metaphor. It is the actual substrate of physical reality. And the non-separation that quantum entanglement reveals, the instantaneous connection between entangled particles, regardless of distance, is not a metaphor for connection. It is the actual nature of the field from which all apparent separation arises. You are not separate from the person you love. You are the same field expressing itself in two different forms. And love is the perception of that truth. This is where the veil lifts. This is the layer beneath the layer beneath the layer. And from here, everything you thought you knew about love changes meaning. If you are not fundamentally separate from the person you love, if you are both expressions of the same underlying field, then love is not a bridge between two separate islands. Love is the field recognizing itself. Love is the ocean noticing that what it thought were two separate waves are made of the same water, and this changes everything about how you receive love. Everything about what you're available for. Everything about what love can do to you and through you and as you. Because if love is the field recognizing itself, then the love that is coming toward you, the love you haven't felt yet, the love this entire transmission is preparing you for, is not something that will happen to you from outside. It is something that will arise in you as a recognition of what was always true. It will feel like receiving something from outside. But at the deepest layer, it will be the field waking up to itself through the form of your relationship with another being. And you will only be able to receive it at that depth if you know that depth exists. That is why you are here. That is what this is for. Let's go to the next layer. Because there is something specific about the love you haven't felt yet that you need to understand before it arrives. The love you haven't felt, the love that exists beneath the layers you've already experienced, has specific qualities that distinguish it from the love you've known, not because it is a different category of experience, but because it operates from a different layer of reality. And the qualities that come from that deeper layer feel different, sometimes uncomfortably different, sometimes overwhelmingly different. The first quality is presence. Not the presence of another person in your life. That's the surface version. The presence that comes from the deeper layer of love is a quality of attention that is so complete, so undivided, so fully here that it creates a kind of field effect. You can feel it when you enter a room where someone is holding it for you. You can feel it when someone looks at you from beneath their surface, from the layer where they are not performing or managing or calculating, but simply here, fully for you. This kind of presence is rare. It is rare because it requires the person holding it to be present to themselves at a depth that most people don't reach in daily life, but it is possible. And when you feel it, something in you that has been holding itself at the surface, holding itself carefully, guardedly, at the outermost layer, begins to release. The second quality is recognition. Not recognition in the sense of familiarity, though it often feels like that. Recognition in the deeper sense. The sense that something in you that has never been fully seen is being seen. Not your achievements, not your personality, not the version of yourself you've curated for the world. The thing beneath that. The thing you've always been beneath the story of who you are. When someone loves you from the deeper layer, they see that. They see the wave and the ocean simultaneously. They see you as you are at the surface, and they see what you are beneath it. And being seen at both levels simultaneously, being loved at both levels simultaneously, is an experience that reorganizes something fundamental in your nervous system. The third quality is freedom. This sounds counterintuitive because we often associate deep love with attachment, with need, with the desire to hold and be held. And those things are real. But beneath the attachment, beneath the need, beneath the desire to hold, in the deepest layer of love, there is a freedom that is unlike anything the surface version of love provides. It is the freedom of being loved not for what you do, or what you provide, or what you represent, but for what you are at the level beneath all of that. When you are loved at that depth, you don't need to maintain the surface. You don't need to manage the impression. You don't need to hold the defended version of yourself in place. Because the love isn't addressed to the defended version. It's addressed to the layer beneath it. And that is a freedom that most people have never felt. And once you feel it, the surface version of love, the version that requires you to maintain the performance, becomes something you can no longer fully settle for. The fourth quality is expansion. The deepest love doesn't complete you in the sense of filling a lack. It expands you in the sense of revealing that you are larger than the surface you've been living from. It shows you layers of yourself you didn't know were there. Not because the other person adds something to you, but because the love between you creates a field in which you can perceive more of yourself than you could perceive alone. The way two instruments playing together can produce harmonics that neither could produce individually. Not because they added something to each other, but because their resonance revealed frequencies that were always present in both. The fifth quality, and this is the deepest one, is dissolution without disappearance. In the deepest love, the boundary between self and other becomes permeable. The membrane thins. You feel what they feel. You know what they know without being told. You are moved by their reality in a way that is not vicarious. It is direct. And this can be frightening, as I said, because the self-protection system interprets it as loss of self. But what actually happens, what you discover if you stay in it instead of retreating to the surface, is that you don't disappear when the boundary becomes permeable. You expand. You discover that you are larger than the boundary suggested. You discover that what you thought was the edge of you was just a layer. And beneath that layer, you are not smaller. You are more. These are the qualities of the love you haven't felt yet. Not all at once necessarily, not perfectly or permanently, but as a direction, as a depth that is available, as a layer of love that exists beneath the layers you've already known. And here is what you need to understand before that love arrives. You will not recognize it immediately, because it doesn't look like what you've been taught love looks like. It doesn't arrive with the drama and urgency that the surface version of love often announces itself with. It doesn't feel like falling. It feels more like landing, like something that was always true becoming visible, like a layer that was always there being revealed. And because it doesn't look like what you've been told love looks like, you may try to dismiss it. You may try to reduce it to the surface. You may find yourself reaching for the familiar landmarks, the chemistry, the urgency, the need, and not finding them in quite the same form. And you may mistake that absence for the absence of love itself. But the absence of urgency is not the absence of love. It is the presence of a love that doesn't need urgency, because it is not driven by lack. The absence of drama is not the absence of depth. It is the presence of a depth that doesn't need drama, because it is already at the layer beneath drama. The absence of need is not the absence of desire. It is the presence of a desire that comes from wholeness rather than from the wound of separation. This is what you need to know before it arrives, so that when it comes, you can recognize it not by the familiar surface markers, but by the quality of the field it creates, by the way it makes you feel at the layer beneath your feelings, by what it reveals in you that you didn't know was there, hidden in plain sight. The deepest love has always been available. You just needed a map that showed you what it looks like from beneath the surface. Now let's go to the layer that is most personal, most immediate, most directly about you, right now in this moment. Because there is something you need to do before the deepest love can reach you, and it has nothing to do with the other person. It has nothing to do with finding the right person or being in the right circumstances or having done enough healing or having become enough of who you're supposed to be. It has to do with the layer you're observing from. Quantum mechanics discovered something that sounds abstract, but is the most practical thing in this entire transmission. The observer affects the observed. The frequency from which you observe reality determines what of reality you can perceive. This is not philosophy. This is physics. The measurement problem, the fact that the act of observation collapses quantum probability into specific outcomes, is one of the most rigorously confirmed findings in the history of science. What this means, translated into the territory of love, is this. The layer of yourself from which you observe love determines what of love you can perceive. If you are observing from the surface, from the defended, self-protected surface layer of self, you will perceive the surface layers of love, the chemistry, the feeling, the transaction, and you will miss the deeper layers entirely. Not because they aren't there, but because you are observing from a frequency that cannot perceive them. To perceive the deeper layers of love, you have to descend to the layer from which they are visible. You have to be willing to observe from beneath your own surface. And that willingness to go beneath your own surface is the only preparation that matters. This is what the ancient traditions meant when they said you must know yourself before you can truly love another. They didn't mean you must have completed your healing. They didn't mean you must have resolved all your wounds. They meant you must have gone beneath your own surface far enough to know that there is a layer beneath your surface. To know that you are not just the defended version of yourself. To have touched, even briefly, the layer beneath the layer. Because from that layer, from the layer beneath your own surface, the deeper layers of love become visible, become receivable, become real. So here is the practice, not a technique, not a method, a direction. The next time you are alone, not distracted, not performing, not managing, I want you to do something that might feel unusual. I want you to go beneath your own surface, not by analyzing yourself, not by thinking about yourself, but by simply descending, by moving your attention from the surface of your experience, the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations, and allowing it to sink, like a stone sinking through water, through the surface layer, through the emotional layer, through the narrative layer, into the layer beneath all of those. the layer that is simply here, simply aware, simply present without content. You don't need to hold that layer for long. You don't need to achieve anything there. You just need to touch it, to know it exists, to know that you exist beneath your own surface. Because once you know that, once you have direct experience of the layer beneath your own surface, you will be able to recognize it in another person. You will be able to feel when someone else is observing from that layer, and you will be able to meet them there. That meeting, two beings meeting beneath their own surfaces simultaneously, is what the deepest love is made of. It is not romantic mythology. It is the most real thing that can happen between two human beings. And it is available to you. It has always been available to you. You just needed to know it was there. Let me give you the second parable, because there is a layer in this story that the first one didn't reach. There was a man named Kael who had spent many years studying love. Not romantically, academically, philosophically, practically. He had read the ancient texts. He had studied the neuroscience. He had sat with teachers who had devoted their lives to understanding the nature of consciousness and connection. He knew more about love, conceptually, than most people he had ever met. And he had never felt the deepest layer. He knew this. He knew it the way you know a gap in a map. Not by what's there, but by the shape of what's absent. He could describe the deeper layers. He could point to them in the texts. He could recognize them when he saw them in others. But in himself, in his own experience of love, there was a ceiling he had never broken through. He met a woman named Mira at a point in his life when he had largely stopped expecting the ceiling to break. Not out of despair, out of a kind of honest acceptance. He had made peace with knowing the map, without experiencing the territory. Mira was not exceptional in the ways that usually announce themselves. She was not the most beautiful person he had ever met. She was not the most accomplished or the most charismatic. But she had something that Kael, with all his study, had rarely encountered. She was observing from beneath her own surface. Not all the time, not perfectly, but consistently enough that when she looked at him, he could feel that she was not looking at the surface of him. She was looking at the layer beneath. This was uncomfortable. This was extraordinary. This was, for the first time in his life, the experience of being perceived at the layer he had only ever read about. And here is what happened that he had not predicted, despite all his study. When someone perceives you from beneath the surface, when someone's love is addressed to the layer beneath your defended self, the defended self doesn't know what to do. It has no protocol for this. It was built to manage surface-level perception. It was built to perform for surface-level love, but love that comes from beneath the surface and reaches beneath the surface. The defended self has no way to intercept it. It goes straight through. Kael felt this. He felt the love go straight through the layer he had built, not because Mira was doing anything aggressive or invasive. She was simply being present at a depth that his surface layer had no defense against. Because you can't defend against something that isn't attacking the surface. He told her, eventually, what he had studied. All of it. The quantum mechanics, the ancient wisdom, the maps of the layers beneath love. And she listened. And then she said something that dismantled everything he thought he knew about his own understanding. She said, "You know all the layers, but you've been studying them from the surface. You've been looking down at them from above, like a map on a table. You haven't been inside them." He said, "How do you know?" She said, "Because someone who has been inside the layers doesn't need to talk about them this much. Someone who has been inside the layers is simply in them. The talking is what you do when you're standing at the surface, pointing down." He was quiet for a long time, and then he said, "You're right. I've been a cartographer of a territory I've never entered." She said, "That's not a failure. That's just where you've been. The question is whether you're ready to stop mapping and start descending." He said, "I don't know how." She said, "You already know how. You just haven't been willing to not know what you'll find." And that willingness to not know what you'll find is what Kyle had been missing. Not knowledge, not capacity, not worthiness. The willingness to descend into a layer he couldn't map in advance. The willingness to be in the territory instead of studying the map. And you have been building that willingness in this moment, right now, as you receive this transmission. You have been descending, layer by layer, and the fact that you are still here, still going deeper instead of retreating to the surface, is the evidence that you are ready. Because here is what Kyle discovered when he finally descended. When he finally stopped mapping and started entering. When he allowed Mira's love addressed to the layer beneath his surface, to reach the layer it was addressed to. He discovered that the territory was not what the map had described. Not because the map was wrong, but because maps are made of symbols and the territory is made of experience. And the experience of the deepest layer of love is not something that symbols can fully contain. It is something that has to be felt from inside. What he found inside was this. The layer beneath his defended self was not empty. It was not a void. It was not the absence of self that he had feared when he imagined losing the defended version. It was full. It was more full than anything at the surface had ever been. It was full of a quality that he had been reading about his entire life and had never known how to translate from symbol to experience. It was full of the love that he had been looking for outside himself. The love he had been trying to find in the right person, the right relationship, the right configuration of circumstances. It was already there. It had always been there. Beneath the surface of his defended self, beneath the layer of his need and his longing and his carefully studied understanding, the love he had been seeking was present as the ground state of his own being. And Mira was not the source of that love. She was the mirror that showed him it was there. She was the depth that called his depth into visibility. She was the love that loved him into recognizing the love that he already was. This is the deepest layer. This is what was always beneath everything. The love you've been seeking is not something that will come to you from outside. It is something that will be recognized in you by the love that comes from outside. The right love, the love you haven't fully felt yet, will not give you something you were missing. It will reveal something that was always present beneath the surface of your experience. Something that was there before you met them and will be there after. Something that is you at the deepest layer. Something that is the love that the universe is, expressing itself through the form of you. And this changes the entire relationship between you and the love that is coming. Because if the love you're seeking is not something that will be given to you from outside, if it is something that will be revealed in you by the love that comes from outside, then you are not waiting for someone to complete you. You are not waiting for someone to fill the absence. You are waiting for the mirror, the depth that calls your depth into visibility, the love that loves you into recognizing what you already are. And that is a completely different kind of waiting. It is not the waiting of lack. It is the waiting of readiness, the readiness to be seen at the layer beneath your surface, the readiness to be loved at the depth that reveals the love you already are, the readiness to stop defending the surface version of yourself against the love that is trying to reach the layer beneath it. That readiness, that willingness to be reached at the deepest layer, is what this transmission has been building in you, and it is the only preparation that matters. Now, let's talk about what this means practically, because the deepest layer has to land somewhere in the life you're actually living. What does it look like, in practice, to be available for the love you haven't felt yet? What does it look like to approach love from the layer beneath the surface rather than from the surface itself? It looks like this. It looks like entering relationships, all relationships, not just romantic ones, with a quality of attention that is interested in what's beneath the surface. Interested in the layer beneath the performance, beneath the presentation, beneath the story the other person tells about themselves. Not in an invasive way, not in a way that strips away what someone isn't ready to reveal, but with a quality of attention that communicates, I am interested in more than the surface. I am here for the depth of you if you are willing to show it. This quality of attention, this interest in the layer beneath the surface, does something remarkable. It creates a field. It creates an environment in which the other person's depth is invited into visibility. Because depth is not something that arises in isolation. Depth is called forth by depth. The deepest layers of another person become visible when they are in the presence of someone who is perceiving from their own depth, when they feel that the surface is not the only layer being attended to. This is why the deepest love cannot be performed. You cannot perform depth. You cannot fake the quality of attention that perceives beneath the surface. The other person's nervous system knows. Not consciously, necessarily, but at the level beneath conscious processing, the body knows the difference between someone who is looking at the surface and someone who is looking from beneath their own surface at the layer beneath yours, and it responds accordingly. To love from the deeper layer, to be available for the love you haven't felt yet, you have to actually be at the deeper layer, not as a performance of depth, not as a technique, but as a genuine descent into the territory beneath your own surface, as a genuine willingness to be at the layer where love is not a transaction, but a field, where love is not something you do, but something you are. And here is the paradox that the surface version of love never reaches. The more you descend, the more you are genuinely at the layer beneath your own surface, the more magnetic you become to the love that is capable of meeting you there. Not because you are performing depth, but because depth recognizes depth. The field calls to itself. The ocean recognizes its own waves. This is why the deepest love often arrives not when you are actively seeking it, but when you have descended deeply enough into yourself that you are no longer seeking from lack. When you have touched the layer where the love you were seeking is already present as the ground state of your own being. When you are, in some sense, already full. Not because you have given up on love, but because you have found the layer where love was always already present. And from that layer, the love that comes from outside is not filling an absence. It is recognizing a presence. This is the deepest layer, and it is also the most practical one, because it means that the preparation for the love you haven't felt yet is not external. It is not finding the right person or being in the right circumstances or having done enough work on yourself. It is internal. It is the descent, the willingness to go beneath your own surface and discover what is there, to discover that what is there is not emptiness, but fullness, not absence, but presence, not the lack of love, but the ground state of love itself. There is one more layer I want to show you, one more veil to lift, because this is the one that changes everything about the future. Most people approach love as something that happens to them, something that arrives from outside, something they receive from another person who has it and gives it to them. And this model, the model of love as something received from outside, creates a specific relationship with love. It creates a relationship of dependency, of waiting, of hoping that the right person will arrive with the right love in the right amount and give it to you in the right way. And this relationship with love is the source of most of the suffering that love produces. Because love, approached from outside, is always uncertain, always potentially absent, always dependent on the presence and the choices of another being over whom you have no control. And the self-protection system, knowing this, builds the filter, builds the ceiling, maintains the defended surface. Because if love is something that comes from outside and can be withdrawn, then the safest strategy is to never be fully open to it. Never let it all the way in. Maintain the layer of protection that keeps the deepest layer safe from the risk of loss. But here is the layer beneath that entire structure, the layer that changes everything. Love is not something that comes to you from outside. Love is what you are at the deepest layer. And what comes from outside, the love of another person, is not giving you something you don't have. It is reflecting back to you something you already are. It is showing you the layer of yourself that you couldn't see without the mirror. This means that the love you're waiting for, the love you haven't felt yet, is not something that will complete you. It is something that will reveal you. It will reveal the layer of you that was always there, beneath the surface, beneath the defended self, beneath the story of who you are and what you need and what you've been missing. And once you know this, once you hold this as the map from which you navigate love, the entire relationship with love changes. You are no longer waiting from lack. You are no longer hoping from emptiness. You are no longer protecting yourself from the risk of loss, because what you are at the deepest layer, the love that is the ground state of your being, cannot be lost. It cannot be withdrawn by another person's choices. It cannot be taken away by the end of a relationship, or the departure of a person, or the silence that follows a goodbye. What can be lost is the mirror, the specific person who was reflecting that layer back to you, and that loss is real. It is not minimized by knowing the deeper layer. The grief of losing the mirror is real. The ache of losing the specific presence that called your depth into visibility is real. But beneath the grief, beneath the ache, beneath the loss of the mirror, the thing that was being reflected is still there. The layer beneath the surface is still there. The love that you are at the deepest layer is still there. And this knowledge, this map that includes the deepest layer, is what allows you to love fully without holding back. Because you are no longer protecting something that can be lost. You are expressing something that is always present. You are being the love that you are, through the form of a specific relationship with a specific person, for as long as that form is available. And when the form changes, when the relationship transforms or ends or evolves into something different, the love that was being expressed through that form doesn't disappear. It returns to the field. It becomes available to be expressed through the next form, through the next mirror, through the next depth that calls your depth into visibility. This is the deepest layer. This is what was always beneath everything. This is the love that the mystics were pointing at when they said that love is not something you find, but something you are. This is the love that the quantum field is made of, in the language of physics. This is the love that the ancient traditions mapped in 100 different languages, all pointing at the same hidden layer. And now you have the map. Before we integrate everything, I want to address you directly, not as a viewer, not as an audience member, but as the specific being who has been willing to go through all these layers with me, who has been willing to not stop at the surface, who has been willing to descend layer by layer into the territory beneath everything they thought they knew about love. You are here because something in you already knew there was more beneath the surface. You were right. There is more. There is so much more than the surface version of love that most people experience. And you have now been shown the map of what lies beneath. But the map is not the territory. The map is what I can give you in this transmission. The territory is what you enter through your own willingness to descend, through your own willingness to go beneath your own surface and discover what is there, through your own willingness to be present at the layer beneath your defended self when the love that is coming toward you arrives. That willingness is not something I can give you. It is something you already have. The evidence is that you are here, that you stayed through all the layers, that you let the veil lift again and again, even when what was revealed beneath it was uncomfortable or unfamiliar or more than you expected. That willingness is the depth calling to itself. That willingness is the love that you are, at the deepest layer, recognizing the map of itself. You are ready, not because you've completed anything, not because you've healed everything, not because you've become the perfect version of yourself, but because you are willing to descend. And willingness is the only door. Let's bring all the layers together now. Let's hold the whole map at once. The surface layer. Love is a feeling between two separate people. Real, valid, the outermost expression of something much deeper. Beneath that, love is a neurological and biochemical event, the body's translation of something deeper into its own language. Real, accurate, not the whole story. Beneath that, love is the quantum field, recognizing its own non-separation through the medium of two human nervous systems. The entanglement that was always true beneath the apparent separation, becoming briefly perceptible. This is where physics and experience meet. Beneath that, love is the ancient truth that the mystics mapped in every tradition, in every century, the dissolution of the illusion of separation, the perception of the ground state of reality, the ocean recognizing itself in its own waves. Beneath that, love is the self-protection structure becoming permeable, the defended surface releasing its grip long enough for the deeper layer to be reached, the filter dissolving, the ceiling lifting, the layer beneath the defended self becoming accessible. Beneath that, love is the recognition of what you are at the deepest layer, not a bounded, separate, self-contained individual seeking completion from outside, but a wave in the field, an expression of the ocean, a form through which the love that is the ground state of reality is expressing itself. And at the very bottom of all these layers, at the core of the entire stack, at the place where all the veils have been lifted and there is nothing left to peel back, at that layer there is only this. Love is what you are, not what you feel, not what you do, not what you receive or give or build or lose, what you are. At the layer beneath all the layers, at the depth beneath all the depths, at the core that was always there, waiting for your awareness to be ready to look deep enough to find it. This was always there, you just hadn't looked deep enough yet. And now you have. Now you have the map. Now you know the layers. Now you know what the love you haven't felt yet will feel like. Not because you've been told what to expect, but because you've descended to the layer from which it is visible. The layer from which you can recognize it when it arrives. The layer from which you can receive it at the depth it's being offered from. The layer from which you can meet it, truly meet it, instead of reducing it to the surface version that was all you had a map for before. The veil is thinner than you think, and now you can see through it. Something has shifted in you during this transmission. You may not be able to name it yet. You may not be able to articulate exactly what changed, but something has. Something that was at the surface has descended. Something that was defended has softened. Something that was looking at the map has begun to enter the territory. That shift is real. It is not a feeling that will pass when the video ends. It is a new layer of the map installed in your perception, a new frequency from which you can observe. And from this new frequency, you will begin to notice things you didn't notice before. You will begin to perceive the deeper layers of love in the connections you already have. You will begin to feel the layer beneath the surface in the people around you. You will begin to recognize the depth that is available in every relationship, waiting for someone to attend to it from beneath the surface. And when the love you haven't felt yet arrives, when the mirror comes that will reflect your deepest layer back to you, that will call your depth into visibility, that will love you at the layer beneath your defended self, you will be ready. Not because you've become perfect, but because you know the layer exists, because you've descended to it, because you've touched it, because you know you are more than the surface, because you know that the love you've been seeking is not something that will be given to you from outside, but something that will be recognized in you by the love that comes from outside. You are no longer a surface dweller. You see the depth now, and the depth sees you. If this transmission is one you want to carry further, return to it in a quiet moment, early in the morning, or in the stillness before sleep, when the surface noise is lowest and the deeper layers are most accessible. That is when these words land at a different depth than they do in the middle of an ordinary day. And if there is someone in your life who you sense is standing at the edge of this, someone who has always felt that the love they've known has a ceiling they can't explain, share this with them. Not to convince them of anything, but because when two people descend into these layers together, something happens between their consciousness fields that neither could access alone. The shared recognition doesn't just double the depth, it opens a layer that isolation cannot reach. That is how the veil lifts. Not in isolation, but in the field of shared perception. Before you go, I want to ask you something. I want to know what layer you reached during this transmission. What was the moment when something shifted? What was the layer that lifted the veil for you? Was it the quantum field recognizing its own non-separation? Was it the understanding of the self-protection structure and the ceiling it builds? Was it Sarah and Elias discovering the territory beneath the map? Was it Kale being told that he had been studying the layers from the surface without entering them? Was it the recognition that the love you've been seeking is not something that will come to you from outside, but something that will be revealed in you? Tell me in the comments. Drop the layer that shifted something for you, because this community, this gathering of people who refuse to stop at the surface, is itself a field. And the depth you bring to it in your comment becomes part of the field that others descend into. Your recognition lifts the veil for someone else. Your willingness to name the layer you reached makes that layer more visible to the next person who arrives here looking for what's beneath. If this transmission reached a layer in you that you didn't know was there, share it with someone who is ready to stop at the surface. Not to convince them, not to explain it, just to offer them the doorway, just to say, there is something beneath what you've been calling love. And there is a place that will show you what it is. That is how the veil lifts, not in isolation, but in the field of shared recognition. And if you want to go deeper, if you want to keep descending through the layers of reality that exist beneath the surface of everything you've been taught to accept as solid, fixed, and final, then stay here. Subscribe, because every transmission is another layer lifted. Every video is another veil removed. Every exploration goes beneath the previous one and reveals what it was concealing. We don't stop at the surface here. We never have. We never will. What has been revealed cannot be re-hidden. The love you haven't felt yet is not in the future. It is in the depth. It is in the layer beneath the layer you've been living from. It is in the territory beneath the map. It is in the field that you are, at the deepest layer, beneath all the layers. And now you know it's there. Welcome to what was always beneath everything.